Hello and a very warm welcome indeed to this latest edition of Talking Germany, the show where we do just that. Now, earlier this year, Germany, of course, won the Football World Cup for the fourth time, no less. And after what was a relatively short break, the Bundesliga, one of the best leagues in the world, is now back in action. So it seems like a good time to talk about football and its significance and much else besides, with a legendary football commentator here in Germany. Here he is in person, Manni Breuckmann. Thank you very much for joining us here on Talking Germany today.
Hello, Peter.
Great to have you here now. Wonderful. Now, Manni Breuckmann can look back on a 36-year career as a radio reporter and commentator, during which time much changed in the game, but not everything. It is still the case that, as the former England captain Gary Lineker once put it, football is a simple game. 22 men chase a ball for 90 minutes, and at the end, the Germans always win. It's a good quote, isn't it?
It's a good quote, but it's not true in
Exactly,
any way.
It's not true. They don't always win, yeah? But of course, not very long ago, in July, in Rio, they won 1-0 in the World Cup final against Argentina with that wonderful goal from Mario Götze. Did the German team deserve to win?
I saw the match against Algeria.
Algeria.
Algeria. Algeria.
Okay.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
And nobody could imagine that this team, exact the same team, would win the championship. But then you remember the match against Brazil.
Yeah.
Semi-final.
Historic.
7-1. Historical 7-1. And then I was confident that they could manage it. And they did it in 1990.
Yep.
Against Argentina too.
First
and
time.
Then in 2000.
And they repeated it, the same score in each case. Tell me this, what does the way that the German national team plays soccer tell us about Germany as a country and a society?
When you watched German football in the 80s or in the 90s, it was working football. It was strong football. It was defense football. And now they play. Sometimes they play like Brazil did 20 years ago. But they have a strong defense too. It's a combination between both things. I have always said that I won't compare football to the society or to some development to the society. Somebody told that in the 70s, the way they played football in Germany had something to do with the students' rebellion. Oh, that's too far. They tear it from
You think that's too far-fetched? I'm not so sure. I mean, the way the great Dutch team of the 1970s, for example, played football had a lot to do with liberation in society and all that kind of stuff. Did it not?
Football total.
Exactly.
In Holland.
Yeah.
Yes. It may be that this is true, but you can't say that the society in the Netherlands nowadays is no more free. They went 1 or 2 steps back. But if you compare it to the German society, it is free enough. OK, I'm going to leave you with that for now, and I'm going to pin you down in a little bit. We're going to talk about German society and German football and the interaction between the two, because I think there is something going on there, but you might disagree. We shall see. Just before we watch a report about who you are and a little bit more about who you are, just tell me where your passion for football first came from. From my father.
It's always the same, isn't it?
Always the same. Not from my mother, certainly, but from my father.
Yeah.
I went to the football ground in my hometown with my father, the well-known club Germania Datteln. Everybody knows in the whole world. In the 60s, they play in green and white, and they were champions of Westphalia.
Oh. Well,
in 1961.
And you were there?
Yes. But later I changed to Schalke 04.
Okay. You upgraded. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Go!
Like Argentina.
Oh, wonderful. I've always wanted to do that on air, and now I've done it. I've done many things in my journalistic career, but I'd never done the goal thing.
I think the Spanish commentators or the Brazilian commentators, they explode.
And could you do that? Could you do a really long one?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. A la derecha, a la derecha. Goal! Goal, 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 Brazil, oh Brazil!
Wonderful, yeah. Here, live on Talking Germany. Great. Let's go back have a look at your career a little bit. And one of the things that it's important to mention is that you were a radio man. What's the difference between radio commentating and TV commentating, soccer?
More words come out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And you have not to be such an analyst like the TV commentator. You are a specialist for the mood.
Yeah.
For what is going on in the stadium.
Yeah.
For the extent.
Yeah. You have to describe more.
Yes, you have to describe.
More detail, really.
Yes. Yeah. And that is very important that you describe. Mm. That you do not throw around with statistics or so. Mm. You must describe what happens on this green ground.
Reliably, correctly, accurately. Yeah. Okay, beyond that, you were also cult status as the voice of the Ruhr Valley. Mm. Yeah. What did that mean to you?
Cult status is modern. It doesn't count so much for me. I'm popular, okay, that's all right. But in the 70s, you never would have said that I have cult status. Mm-hmm. They know me, and it has quite a lot to do with the fact that I'm sitting there. I've been sitting there for 38 years.
Yeah, but the Ruhr Valley is everybody in Germany knows, and a lot of people outside Germany, is associated with people who work hard, with a real tradition, working class tradition. You came from, or did you? I mean, would you say you came from a working class family?
No, I'm not from a working class family. My father was a postman.
Oh, so that's sort of higher up in society, lower middle class or what?
Lower middle class, but we had nothing to do with all the coal miners around us. But Datteln, the town where I came from, was a coal mining town. Mm-hmm. But my father and my relatives were in the middle class, but not in the upper middle class, in the lower middle class.
Yeah. It's interesting, though. You were special in your family because you went away to study at university.
The first one
exactly.
Who went away
and you went away to study law. Mm-hmm. You didn't become a lawyer.
No, I didn't. After I've studied law, I've been to the government, the German government, the Press and Information Office under the government.
You were a bit of a civil servant.
Yes. Helmut Schmidt was the chancellor at that time. And Klaus Bölling was the boss of the Information Office. I've been there for 3 years.
Yeah, interesting. So that's an interesting time. But there was a very... May the 7th, 1972 was a very important day in your life?
Yes, that was my first event on the radio. The first time I spoke into a microphone, I was so nervous.
You were nervous?
I smoked 50 cigarettes that day. And from then on... It went on, but on a very low basis in the first years. And that led to the point that I didn't stop studying law. I went on studying
kept your
law.
Options open.
Yes. I did it to the end. And my first World Cup tournament I had after 10 years. I had to be very patient.
I see. But let's go back to that very first game in 1972. The game must have been the game. I know. I'm not guessing. The game was very, very different back then from now.
It was.
In what ways, significantly? It was much slower.
It was slower, but it is not before my eyes that it was slower. If I should see it on TV, I would realize this. If I look upon media, I must confess that there were only 3 or 4 journalists. It was the second German division. That match I had, Wattenscheid against Neuss.
Against Neuss, a little Rhineland town.
Second division, 2,000 spectators have been there, and only 3 or 4 journalists. Nowadays, it would be brought live on TV, on a pay channel, on a Sky pay channel, and there should have been 10 or 15 journalists watching this match. That's the main difference I see.
Okay, so media coverage. That was where you started. What was in your career, what was the biggest match that you ever did the commentary on?
The biggest match was the World Cup final 2002. Germany,
Cup final 2002.
In Yokohama, Germany played against Brazil. and Oliver Kahn made those terrible mistakes.
After playing so brilliantly in the
Ronaldo,
tournaments. Yeah.
yes, and Ronaldo, yes. So I never cried out and shouted out the words, Deutschland ist Weltmeister. Never, I did it never.
And do you regret that?
A bit.
You would like that to have happened?
Only a bit. But I had the great thing that within 7 days, 2 clubs from the Ruhr region got to the European Championship. Schalke 04 against Inter Milan, UEFA Cup it was called at that time. And the Champions League, Borussia Dortmund against Juventus Turin. 7 days later, first in Milan, Milano, and then in Munich. And I was on the microphone, and this was great for me. Wonderful. As a Ruri, we say.
Okay, and these days, and we're talking about the difference between TV and radio coverage. These days, if you have the choice between listening to a match on the radio, watching a match on TV, what do you choose?
All the time on TV.
On TV?
Yes.
But you know, sometimes when I'm driving around in my car on a Saturday afternoon and I listen to the radio coverage, it seems richer.
Yes, it's like theatre.
Yeah.
And it is dramatic. And it's good to listen to. But if you have the choice, World Cup match or so,
you're going to watch TV.
It's just normal.
Okay. Well, Manni Breuckmann, I mean, you know, what we've learned there is that politicians like to associate themselves with successful teams and successful players. You've been involved in this book. I'll present that in a second. That's one of the topics you looked at. What's your position on all this?
I think quite a lot of politicians, like quite a lot of men or women, are interested in football. But quite a lot pretend to be interested in because it's popular.
Yeah.
And they want to be popular, and so they go to the stadiums, they presentate themselves to the public. Angela Merkel jumps off.
Oh, I was going to say, Angela Merkel was in Brazil not too long ago. She was there for the first game against Portugal?
Yes.
And then she was there for the final?
For the final.
Yeah.
And you always think she takes drugs before she goes to the football stadium. But I think she's...
You can't say that about the Chancellor.
She's interested in football.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is she real or is she phony?
In an emotional way, I think.
So
not very professional, but in an emotional way. Yeah. She likes to watch the German national team.
Yeah.
So that's it.
She's real.
That's okay. She is real.
Yeah, and she was viewed at the World Cup recently as a little bit of a sort of a good luck kind of mascot for the team. Do you think she actually, I don't know what, helped the team to triumph?
I don't think so. It looks good on the paper boulevard.
Yeah.
I had an example of the governor of North Rhine-Westphalia, the later Bundespräsident Johannes Rau.
Okay. A prominent figure in German politics.
Yes.
A social democrat.
He always said, I'm a fan of Wuppertaler SV. That's his hometown, Wuppertal. But he was not interested in football at all. And I don't like this. I don't like this.
So he was a phony. Angela Merkel is not a phony. She's real, you believe?
She is real, but not in a very professional way.
Okay, yeah. Of course, at the World Cup, at the World Cup final, Angela Merkel was there. Sitting right next to her, watching the final, was Sepp Blatter, a controversial figure in himself. Yeah, and then one seat down was Vladimir Putin.
Yes, I remember. I remember.
So sport and politics do have a relationship.
Sport and politics. Look at the Winter Olympics in Sochi.
Yeah.
And look at the next World Cup in Russia.
Well, that's the point. I mean, the next World Cup is supposed to take place in 2018 in Russia. Should it?
Sepp Blatter said some days ago that it will take place in Russia.
Yeah, he's probably right.
This will not change. I don't know at this moment.
It's impossible to say.
I'm not optimistic about Qatar.
2022, Qatar.
Yes, 50 degrees.
Are you for or against? Do you think it was the right decision to give it to Qatar?
No, it was not the right decision. It was a decision which had to do with mafia, nothing else.
You said you don't have much truck with this argument that politics and sport somehow mirror each other. But surely there are cases where in Germany football has had a positive impact on German society.
When?
Yeah.
Maybe in 1954. In 1954, when Germany was down on the ground, and they started public life slowly, the 9 years after the end of the war, it was good for the self-consciousness of the German people.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that's one example. It was Germany's reintroduction to the world stage in a way. What a lot of people here in Germany say is that they look at the German national team now and they say they see players like Mesut Özil, Jerome Boateng, Sami Khedira, and many others, who have got they grew up in migrant communities, immigrant communities here in Germany. Great footballers, fascinating people. They've done so much for German football, but they say the German national team has done more than all the politicians and all the media people or whoever have done for integration in Germany.
That's a sign for integration. Yeah. I must commit that this is a sign for integration that Mesut Özil plays in this team, but it is normal.
It is normal.
Why should he not play in the team?
You have to get to the point where it is normal and where people look at it and say,
I remember when Gerald Asamoah, as the first black played in the national team.
Yeah.
Some looked a bit
for a long time, Germany struggled a real lot with these issues, with integration. Yes. And these were important watersheds.
Yes.
Football had a very important purpose there.
But it's only a little point. It's only a little point. The main things happens in the town. The main things happens on other places, but not on the football ground.
Yeah. You have written a book that came out not too long ago, and it's interesting because the book is it was discussions that involved yourself, the soccer commentator Harald Schmidt, a satirist and an entertainer, Uli Hoeneß, former world champion,
now in prison
for tax evasion, Claudia Roth, a leading member of the Green Party here in Germany, What a combination of people, It's interesting. What kind of conclusions did you draw about German soccer in your book?
First of all, I thought it should be an interesting thing to bring those different people together. Yeah. In my own flat.
So it was in your place.
They were sitting on my sofa. My wife was so nervous when all those famous people came there.
How entertaining! Wonderful.
Yes, and we talked 6 hours. Yeah. It was a very hot day in August 2012, and we talked about everything that has to do with football. We talked about fans, we talked about media, we talked about violence, we talked about money and football. 6 hours, and then we put this to that book, and we made an audio version too of this book.
Oh yeah, okay. We're just hearing in that report about the fans, about the shirts they buy, the scarves they buy, and the flags they buy. You've got a story about your own flag.
My own flag, my first own flag, was made by my mother. It was green and white. You remember? Germania Datteln.
Yeah. Germania Datteln. Great team.
Germania Datteln.
What's happened to that team these days? Where are they these days?
6th or 7th division.
Okay, they're still existing though. Do you happen to know, as a football expert, the average number of fans who attend a Bundesliga match?
I think 43,000.
Pretty good, pretty good. I wrote down 42,000, but I might have been up at the top end of 42,000. The average number in Spain?
Average number in Spain should be, I think, 28 or so.
Wonderful, very good. Yeah, 21,000 in Italy, 35,000 in the very moneyed, very expensive Premiership in England. Yeah, so Germany is ahead there.
But more expensive in England.
More expensive, exactly. Why is Germany leading there? Why do more German fans attend matches than any other top league in Europe?
We have the modern stadiums.
I think that's the reason.
If you compare it to Spain or even Italy, Italy is bad with stadiums.
Yeah.
That's the reason, and the entrance fee is not so high.
How much do you pay to go to an average Bundesliga match these days?
I think 22 or 25 on an average, 22, 25. And,
euros, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're talking $20 to $30 or something in that rate. It's cheap,
yes.
really. I mean, it's inexpensive. It's not cheap. Yeah, pretty much anybody can go. Yeah, we mentioned that you came from the working class Ruhr Valley originally. Yeah, is soccer still a working class sport?
No. Nowadays, no more. Nowadays, no more. No. I realize that people are going to the football stadiums who wouldn't have done this 20 or 30 years ago. It's not so basically working class. This has also something to do with the question: where is the working class? Do you have the working class? Yeah. The working class disappears. Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that. I'm surprised to hear you saying that, given that you do. You go to see Dortmund a lot. You go to see Schalke a lot. These are teams that sort of cultivate this kind of tradition.
Look at the players. Look at the players. They even don't come from the working class.
No.
They are middle class.
Yeah.
All the players, most of the players, we must say, are middle class.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, here in Berlin, our local football team, Hertha Berlin, when I go there, if I stand among the ordinary fans, the cheap seats, the seats you're talking about, I'm surrounded by real, very hard-working men and women, I have the feeling, with a real sort of working class culture. Yeah.
It has to do with the demographic situation of some towns. It may be that in Berlin it is so.
Yeah, I remember the former Irish international and Manchester United player, Roy Keane, very famous player you'll be very familiar with. He once said that there are too many people eating prawn sandwiches at football stadiums these days, yeah? Is that a problem in Germany? Is it becoming are people drifting too far away from the clubs and the club culture?
That was a subject where Uli Hoeneß always liked to talk on.
Yeah.
The people in those lodges and VIP stands, VIP areas, they bring the money.
Yeah.
So that those people for 8 or 10 euros can go to the stadium for such a low price.
Yeah. I know, you don't like to talk about the fact that you're in retirement, and that is well and good, because you're not in retirement. You do an awful lot of, you're very busy.
Retirement is a word written on a sheet of paper, but it's not the reality. I'm doing quite a lot.
You're doing a lot, yeah. Including writing detective stories, thrillers, yeah. But I want to talk about one thing you specifically do, and that is you do a lot of public speaking. Yeah? And one of the things you speak on in public is how Bundesliga clubs and the Bundesliga is run financially, how the clubs are financed. What can you tell us there? Because I think there's some very important lessons for other leagues.
I think that the Bundesliga is, from the economic way, in a good shape.
Yeah.
They are moved 2 billion of euros every year. And
so that's the annual turnover.
The annual turnover, and not so much depth. I think 700 million euros depth for all the Bundesliga clubs.
Okay, so how much again?
700 million euros.
700 million euros of debt for Bundesliga clubs, which sounds like a lot, but compared to
Real Madrid also has 700.
Exactly. There, we've got a comparison. Yeah.
Yes. So the Bundesliga clubs are in total very sane.
Yeah. And how have they achieved that? How have they managed to stay so healthy?
It has quite a lot to do with the World Championship 2006. Because at that time we got the new stadiums or the renovated stadiums in Germany, and this was the basic. This was the basic to build this growth upon. I think it is the most important reason for this.
Okay. We talked about that. We've talked a little bit about politics and money and football teams being successful, winning tournaments or trophies or what have you. The one team in Germany that brings all that together more than any other is clearly Bayern Munich. Yeah. We're talking very optimistically and positively about the Bundesliga, but does the Bundesliga have a problem with Bayern Munich being simply too good?
Bayern Munich is too good. You must say this. I think that only Borussia Dortmund, in a certain way, can compare itself to Bayern Munich. Yeah. In the year after the World Cups, normally Bayern Munich is not that good, so
they struggle a little bit. Yeah.
May be that Borussia Dortmund will be the champion of the Bundesliga in the next year. But Bayern Munich will always be in the next 10 or 15 years. You can make this prognosis under the first 2 or 3 or even the champion. And the little clubs, they don't have any chance. They always say in the Bundesliga, every club can beat the other. That is no more true.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
On a very good day, a small club can beat Bayern Munich on a very, very good day, if Bayern Munich plays bad.
Okay. Manni Breuckmann, what I really like about that report is in the battle between Mama and Manni. Yeah,
I won.
You won. Yes. Not bad at all.
And the beer.
There you go.
It doesn't work without beer.
How did it come about that you got that job, as it were?
I'm doing football commentating for the blind people.
Oh, really?
In nearly every football stadium of the Bundesliga, there are places for the blind. 15 or 20 blind.
I did not know that.
15 or 20 blind.
Yeah.
They have earphones on.
Yeah, yeah.
And some people who like this, in an amateur way, make the commentating. And sometimes I'm the guest.
Oh, yeah.
Schalke, Dortmund, Bochum, Düsseldorf or Cologne, I've been there. And so I had the idea we could do this with the Carnival Parade in Düsseldorf. I was commentator at the Carnival Parade for TV for 16 years and for radio another 8 or 9 years. And then I made this offered and they said, okay, we
Fantastic.
can do so.
That interests me an awful lot because I have a friend in the UK who's a very well-known journalist in the UK, a man called Peter White. If he just happens to watch the show, he's blind. And when he writes a lot about, in his journalism about how he perceives the world, and it's very interesting. And when he visited me not too long ago, he said, "There's a football match on I'd like to watch." So we sat down and we were watching the football match.
And what did you do?
You see,
made the commentary.
He can't speak German, and we were watching in German because it was German commentary.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Ah, yes.
And he can't speak German, and at some stage he said the commentator got that wrong. Yeah. And just from the acoustics of what was happening in the football match, he must have understood what was happening better than the commentator actually understood. Yeah. It's fascinating how.
I know a blind man who heard the acoustics and could say, "This is Stuttgart."
Oh wow! Well, there you go. Yeah.
This is Munich.
Yeah.
This is Schalke.
Yeah. We're getting slowly but surely towards the end of the show. Yeah.
My golden microphone.
We like to ask our guests to bring something, a prized possession. In this instance, it truly is a prized possession. Yeah. Your golden microphone. Tell us a little bit more about that.
It was constructed by a listener.
Yeah.
It's not an official golden microphone, but I think it's very nice. The 25th anniversary of my microphone career in the year 1997. Yeah. It's so long ago. Then he made this present to me, and I like it very much.
Okay, wonderful. One more thing I need to do before you go. You used to have a Friday afternoon feature, as I understand it, which was Manni against the rest of the world, where you would forecast what was going to happen in the weekend matches. I've got you here on air now, and I would like to challenge you. I'd like to go head to head with you, and I'd like you, and then I'll come back to you in a year or two's time, or at the end of this season. You predict who's going to win this year's Champions League, and I'll predict who's going to win the Champions League this year.
This year's Champions League will be won by Real Madrid once again.
Okay. Here on air, you're going to hear this for the very first time. I predict that this year's Champions League will be won by Liverpool.
Liverpool!
I can tell you're astonished and don't believe it. Watch this space. I'm looking forward to your telephone call when Real go out.
I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed.
We normally have a quiz at the end of the show, an either-or kind of a quiz. I've got a different kind of a quiz for you. I would like to know, in your estimation, Manni Breuckmann, legendary soccer commentator, who was the best German soccer player of all time?
Best German soccer player of all time was Franz Beckenbauer.
I thought you might say that, yeah. Best German coach, club or international? Doesn't matter.
Best German coach.
Quick.
I must be quick. Jupp Heynckes.
Jupp Heynckes. Yeah, I can buy that. Who coached Real Madrid, of course, yeah, as well. OK, that's your lot for this edition of Talking Germany, where we've been talking football and much else besides with the legendary reporter and commentator Manni Breuckmann. If you've enjoyed his company as much as I have, then do come back next week. Until then, bye-bye and tschüss.